Hello Chipsters, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. Today it's an update on, let's get her out gently, the USS Lexington. Yes, she's got a smokestack. How about that? Hey, feeling progress is, we're getting there now. Well, I did think that until last night when I was trying to put on the 20mm Orlicans. 700 scale. I haven't devised a way of building these Orlicans yet and sticking them up in and on where the shields either don't have twisting or I lose the shields going pinging off. Or I spent about an hour and it's got to be an hour and a half last night just sticking down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 Orlicans were stuck down. You just fold them at the bottom so they've got something to sit flat on, and you dab a super glue, stick them on. Now you can either choose to build them. I've tried building them off the ship, putting the gun shield on. I've tried, and then I came up with the idea, look, it's not working. I'll stick them down, so let the super glue go off so it's firm, and then I'll faff around with the shields. That didn't work either. We'll look at that in a minute. So yeah, it's I've got to say, I find the 1 in 700 ships really enjoyable. I could build 1 in 350 or the bigger scale and that would just be enjoyable, but as I say, I haven't got the money and I haven't got the storage space to put anything like that. These 1 in 700s, this is the only one I've done so far. I've got 2 in the stash, the 2, I'll say modern 1980s Falklands veterans ships, the 42s and the Type 21s, which I will build. I've got to get photo etch for them, and I'll hopefully do at least one this year, if not both. It depends. You know me, I've got so much on the bench, I do so much, and they just get little segments here and there. Sometimes they're completely, I mean, look at that Sister of Battle. She's had to just be put in a box for now. It's completely stripped down, sanded, primed, and nothing else at the moment because I've just got so much else on the go. I just didn't want to do a half-hearted job on it. And there was Bob, got in, he liked what he saw of mine, went out and got he's painted it, completed it, finished, and then went out and bought another one. Yeah, that's just Gav. Unfortunately, to say with my videos, you just got to take potluck. Will Gav carry on with a project? Will he get shelved for a few months, a few years, whatever? They do tend to, unless I really get. It's usually my model aeroplanes, to be honest with you. I get so again, head problems. I struggle with things, and I've yet to build an aircraft. I think 3 have gone in the bin so far. A couple with known issues, which I didn't know at the time, and yet it's unusual for me because I do go and have a read up on them, what people say. But never mind. But I've got another on the way. It's going to be dedicated to a fellow YouTuber. But more of that when it turns up. I've only ordered it today. It was just a cheap second-hand kit off eBay. And I've also, we should be doing this, I've also, none of you will remember, but the very first build I ever did on the channel when I got back, when I started doing some scale models on the channel as well as my figure painting, was a F-104 Starfighter. And some of you know that's Gav's favourite post-war aircraft. I know the Lawn Dart, the Widowmaker, all the rest of it. I don't care. I like the F-104 Starfighter. It's my favourite. And I bought, again, stuffed up that one. Now the little one, the 1 in 72 Revell one, is in a box in there, and I swear I'd keep it, and I would go back to, I would buy another one once I could build aircraft. Unfortunately, well, we're now 4 or 5 years down the track, and I'm still no better. But eventually I will be, and then I will buy another of that kit, and we'll have a look from side to side once I've completed them. Anyway, I digress. I went out and got myself a. Again, it was an eBay buy. It was another Starfighter, 1 in 48 scale. What can possibly go wrong? It had no decals, which is why it was cheap. It was about 20 quid. It's the one. It was the end of service schemes that because Italians, I believe, were probably one of the longest users of it, and probably one of the most successful users of the Starfighter, as in casualty rates. But it had no decals. Now, again, coming back into modelling, my naivete, I believe that's how you say it, or if you're around here, naivety. I honestly didn't think they'd be very. I thought, oh, you know, second-hand decals out there, or even new ones. How expensive can they be? They're expensive if they're new. They cost almost the same as a kit, and I wasn't going to do that. I could have got the. There were ones for the Japanese starfighter that Edward did. The problem is it wasn't extra decals through Hannants. If you remember the 80s and 90s extra decals series, Hannants still do them, but they don't do. They miss a trick here. They don't do any of the stencil data. Well, that's no good to me because I haven't got the stencil data, and I know people don't like doing the stencil data, but for me personally, just my own view, if that was what the aircraft had on, that's what I want to put on with it. I'm a stencil data guy, even if you can hardly read it. If it takes me 3 months to do it, and you know it will do, I like to see that. So that was always the down point. The Japanese Edward one, which I will, because right, I want to build. What do you want to build, Gav? Oh, that was it. I wanted to build a more or less a starfighter for most countries. I'll be honest with you, but I wanted to build particularly a German Navy one because it was seeing a German Navy one. I built a 1 in 48. Somebody bought me. I was really lucky. Somebody bought me a 1 in 48 scale. I believe, might be wrong. I've never been able to find it because it would have been all raised panel lines up, would it be? I don't know. It was about 1982 or something like that, and that's what gave me my love of the starfighter. Now, about a couple of months after I built it, never got it painted because it was only brush and I didn't have any paints. But I built the starfighter, and I saw we were going on a school trip, didn't want to go on it, had no choice, and I was sat on the couch, I was just looking out the window depressed, and we were going to Conway in Wales, and this starfighter from the German, I've now realised after, thanks Beetle and Mrs Beetle for my book that you bought me a while ago, I continuously dip into it, and it was a German Navy starfighter. I recognised the camouflage markings and whatever, and ever since I saw that, it's the only time I've ever seen a starfighter fly myself, apart from on YouTube and that. And just love that aircraft. And I want to do a German Navy one. I want to do a Japanese one because I just think the Japanese colour schemes are fantastic, especially that bare metal finish ones with the bits of white and red and orange and something like that anyway. But they're really nice looking aircraft. I wanted to do particularly like a Greek one because, as we all know, for some reason the Greek air force, unless it's a tarted up one for a display, they tend to go all patchy and all that. You know, they look nice and that. So there was a guy in Germany who does a complete German setup, and it wasn't supposed that much expensive, but it's still more than I wanted to pay. And I just kept saying to myself, every few months, just when you're doing your multiple cruisings of eBay, just put in starfighter decals, sometime event. Just say it's not the national markings. They're not so hard to get. It's getting them in both. You know, the stencil data and the national markings, or at least the stencil data that you could then go and find some national markings for. And I finally found some. More of that when it comes, because I'm not telling you. And I've also bought a good job I lost a bidder because I wouldn't have had any money otherwise. I've also bought some photo etch, just the colour one for the cockpit to go with that. So I'll stick that in a box as people do, but that will get built this year. But it was looking at that, another one came up. I just put 1 in 72 scale in, and I was just cruising around having a look because I fancied doing a tribute build to a Mara on the thing that does aircraft and that. And I've got a couple I could do, but there was nothing that really took my fancy. And I could do that, and I did think of doing that starfighter, but I'll make such a song dance about the starfighter, it'll probably detract from the tribute build. So I found a kit. Well, I'm going to say not what it is again. That's coming soon. Obviously ordered at the same time, so it gets here in the next few days, and we'll do an unboxing and a kick off to that one because I'm going to build that one. What can go wrong? And I build it live under the cameras. Yeah, that'll be interesting, won't it? Right, we were looking at the Lexington, weren't we? Love this ship. Love the. I got the Edward. Bought the Edward detail set, and to be honest with you, if you're going to do the Lexington, Saratoga, Yorktown, the Edward detail set is probably all you need. You know, yes, you can do wooden flight decks, bare metal flight decks. You know, as in what they call it, PE flight decks. I've even seen for them. I wouldn't bother unless you want to get a wooden flight deck as well. But the photo etch for this, which you'll see in a minute, and I've still got some to go on it yet, is more than enough. And I think I paid about 20 quid for mine. So it's not to say for the, yes, I do this with weeks in between, but even if you're building this full on, a couple of months work, it's more than the 20 quid investment, enjoyment, that type of thing. Right, let's go down to the bench. I'll go through a couple of cock-ups I've made, British for stuff-ups. And I'll just go through what I've got to do and just where we are with her, really. Right, here she is, a Combat Air Patrol's view of the Lexington. Obviously a fair way to go yet. I'm going to move the camera down a bit now and we'll have a look in greater detail. Right guys, as you see, she's starting to take shape now. Really pleased. We're starting to see this type of, classic shape of this type of carrier. I mean, they weren't the only ones. I believe the HMS Hermes that the Japanese sunk off I was going to say Sri Lanka, but it was Ceylon at the time, wasn't it? She also had a big stack like that. Can't remember if Glorious, Furious and Courageous did or not. Anyway, I'm digressing, as always. Let's get in a bit closer. We might, in fact, let me just move the camera angle slightly. Nothing like being prepared. I'm just never very good at working out how to film these longer ones. Right, first of all, we'll make a start. We'll use with my, if anybody doesn't get these, rather than buy the like China graph pencils and stuff, you get like a pack of these. They're for putting the like jewels, as it shows there, on the nails. I believe Sean over at Scale Model Car Guy channel uses it for his nails. But you, yeah, they're great for picking up photo etch. Of course, you can make them smaller, cut them in half, whatever. But anyway, just thought I'd say that. So if you're doing this type of stuff, get yourself something like this. It doesn't have to be one of these, but again, they're cheap and cheerful, and they do the same as a wax pencil you'd get in a modelling shop. So since the last time you've seen it, we've added all this type of detail on. I've got a nasty feeling that's slightly more leaning forward than it. I couldn't see any other way of getting it any straighter. Hopefully, when she's, I don't know. Yeah, all right then. Maybe it does look a bit twisted. I can't do anything about it now. It's a first attempt with all the PE and all this type of stuff, so we just have to, make do amend, just put up with it. I find trying to get these the different sides here, the screens, bulwarks, whatever you call them, they don't fit particularly well around the plastic, so you've either got to cut the plastic down, I reckon, or I've left them for now. I've got this was an earlier, oh come on Gav, this was an earlier attempt. I'm hoping that when it's all blued out, because these ships were painted blue with grey showing through, it might make it a bit better. I don't know. Again, it's a first attempt, just do as best I can. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. The only thing I found was a lot of these railing details, all you hardcore modelers out there that have got some skills, you'll probably bend those in what. Now I've got the little photo etch bender and the tweezers, well, not photo etch, particularly photo etch tweezers, but I bend them in photo etch. It normally takes me about 3 or 4 attempts to get these contouring in any like type of shape. You see here, I'll flatten that one over. and they will snap fairly easy because they're so dainty. So you guys that know your stuff, you will do that fairly easy. Myself, I've struggled, and I've even, like this one here, to get it to conform better, I've dropped it down one run onto the plastic because I was finding it hard to get it round the part. It's very soft, it will go round, it's just not, I'm just not skillful enough to do it. I made a complete cock up as well. Searchlight or signalling lamps, they're supposed to be down there and there. I believe there could actually be a whole bank of 3. I'm hoping there is, but I've put them up here when I did these and completely missed out there, so I've got to check, and if I can't find any, I'll have to just make some up as rough as I can, you know, and fit them in there. You can see obviously I've made my own stanchions here, not particularly greatly, but that was a weak point in the kit. I unsnipped them nice, you know, I always snip it away from the actual join. I know obviously this isn't the real one, but I literally picked it up, I put my sander to it without sanding it, and it just broke off at the one end. And then when I noticed further down there was a stress fracture on the other. Then when I picked the other piece up, I'd already cut off, the same stress fractures were in the same places. So I thought, I'm not even going to bother with the other one. So this is slightly bigger, but I don't think it's particularly out of scale, to be honest, when I look at the real ship. Also, where can we see? Up on the top here. Oh, sorry guys, I'm trying not to bash the ship. And problem with these little ships are, it's trying to, when there's a lot of stuff involved, it's trying to actually see it. I'll see if we can go in a bit closer. Just about make out a door there. There should be a door on the other side. However, I stuck it on fine. I was faffing around with this stanchion here, and obviously the fighting top here to try and get it to level up, and it obviously just gave way, and I've never found it since. So I had to backfill that with a piece of plastic. I don't think when it's painted, it's going to look that. I was going to stick a spare ship's door on there because it's got one already moulded in. You see, you might just see on that side there. And I still can. I probably will actually, looking at it, because it probably does show up behind that stanchion. But yeah, that's something else that was a stuff up. I'm hoping I've got these the right way round. It really wasn't. I've been looking at photographs and I couldn't work out if I was doing it right or wrong, because in reality these stick out more of an. This angle side piece is angled more than it shows on there, but I've gone with that. Now, really complicated bit that's coming, and I've left it for now because I needed to get these bottom bits on and get underneath. And there is a gangway, or gantry I should say, that goes across both, because this is this the after emergency steering centre? I think I should know all this, but I believe it is. So if this gets damaged, they've got this, I believe. I've really struggled again trying to conform the PE round the little railings, but there's two pieces that stick together. Now we just know where that's going to happen. You know, oh dear, I can see that's all going to go all over the place, but we'll give it a go. Not tonight. I'm working on the Lancer tonight, but that will go across there eventually. All these holes, these are all life rafts. I mean, the British called them Carly floats. I don't know if the Americans did, but they're life rafts anyway. The big ones you always see on the American carriers. So that I've left the ladders on here only because, to be fair, they're not that much. They're probably slightly out of scale. Yeah, I'll admit that. But I just thought, well, you know what? For the sake of taking all that off and some of the collateral damage I'm going to do, I actually think that doesn't look that out of place. especially when we've got all the others. These are going to be more searchlight stroke signal and lamps, I know, on here, and I've left this one on here. We'll have to add a lower one later on, but there's some gun platforms to go on there with, I believe, the 1.1 inch multiple 1.1 inch anti-aircraft guns. What else have we got? Obviously we've got more, I think these are the water-cooled 50 cals that go across here, and we've got to do all this type of bend. Oh, that's going to be fun. Bend it all the way around here. As Trump to do on most of their, I'll do the same with on H. Now I followed it because, you know, I've had difficulty following the instructions with my head problems, and I did it for HMS Kent in 1 in 350 scale, and it's all right building them off plan and then putting them down, but quite often they won't conform to the deck. HMS Kent didn't. I had gaps all over the shop and I couldn't fill them properly because I'd already got a load of stuff all around them. So I thought, no, I'm building it from the deck up. And I've tried to, again with my busted head, is try and think. So as I say, you guys can jump ahead on instructions because you know that you're going to face a problem with something here or a problem with there. So you'll jump ahead to and build something that, you know, so, and change the sequence is what I'm trying to say. Where I struggle with that, because if I change a sequence, I lose all direction with my head then. But I've done it on this because I built all this. I wasn't going to start adding these fiddly little guys and then trying to add the funnel trunk in and all this type of stuff. So the one problem I've had with the shields, I don't know if you can you see the shields on those? So those haven't had them on yet. I just ran out of time last night. But to give them some support, I did them quite close to these balustrades, bulwarks, whatever you want to call them. And then I couldn't get the damn shields in. As I say, hour and a half to try and faff around with them 4 or 5 shields. And yeah, I stuck the gun, but sticking them down, the guns was nothing. But getting the shields on, each shield must have gone flying, what, over a dozen times. And I say I've lost one completely. I know where that's gone. You've got some stanchions here, which make it even more 3D. They do give you obviously plastic options, but they're way over scale. You get some little, make your little fire hose rails up. I've tried to sit them back because I know I'm going to be putting, I would believe anyway, oh, what's the word? Barriers, that's not the word I was after, but you know what I mean, to stop people falling overboard. Head problems again, trying to form words. What I would suggest to you with this guy here, if you're using the PE version, is make sure obviously you've get your metal file and flatten them out where you've got the little pins, you know, where it joins to the sprue, because it's a tight fit. And I'd advise you to put, rather than put it in top and then push the bottoms in. I tried it a couple of 3 times and it wasn't having it, and it's fairly delicate, so I would suggest you put the bottom in and then push the top in, and that seems to work. And there's some plastic behind there for them to butt onto. So that's that, I think. That's everything that we've done, really. On this side, is there any difference, really? Oh, that's the other thing. I mean, it's the glue mess I've made there. That was horrific, trying to build that stairway down. I just could not get it to stick, to conform. Really, really difficult for me. You know, you guys might not have any trouble at all. So that's a right gunky mess. And the problem is there's no way I'm going to be able to clean that off without loosening everything off. I also thought at the time, this is going to be a right game trying to fit the stanchion through, because there's a hole there and you've got to push it down and then through that made up PE. Now, what I could have done in retrospect is, again, thinking about it after the fact, is build the PE frame and leave it off, push the pole through, and then slide up, you know, and slide the frame up to it and glue it. Oh well, I've just thought of that. Never mind. Yeah, I've had to cut that piece off because it wouldn't. It's no way, because of that dictating where that pole goes through. It was no way was it going to go up through this second one, so I've had to cut it off and then stick a piece on just to show. I mean, when it's like, where are you? When it's like that, it doesn't look that bad, I say. I really hacked off how that seemed to have sunk, but I tried and tried to get everything marrying up. Oh well, once again, that'll chew away at me, but there's not much I can do now. Not with trying to get this pole section again, all these stanchions all in. That's about it really. We've got some nice little photo etch, whatever gantries, whatever you call them, there, and obviously I say you've got your gun platforms there. I think that's about it really. But I've really, for all this, and you know, I was doing some swearing last night with the Orlicans on the other side. I really do enjoy it. It is brilliant. I wish that hadn't sunk down, because it's going to really affect the look of the ship now. But never mind. Make sure you keep this brass here sticking out. It doesn't conform around the sides or anything, because off those, when you see photographs of the real ship, she's flying like windsocks off. I don't know if that is for the aircraft. Some little, not big, huge ones, just some little ones. Whether that's for wind direction for the ship or for crew, or whether it is for the aircraft, I don't know. But yeah, so if you use that kit, you'll get this photo etch sticking out. And I was almost about to bend it round, thinking, oh well, it must go round, contour round, but it doesn't. It sticks out. As you can see, the 50 cals are. All of these small anti-aircraft guns are a bit out of scale. These are water-cooled 50s. And the 20 mils, you can use the ship's 20 mils, but they are really big. They're almost as big as the 5-inch guns down here. So, yeah, we're getting there. What else is going to be done? Obviously, all that around the funnel, that's going to take me a good few nights, so I've got at least weeks' worth of work there, probably. Then I've primed up the ship's boats. I'm going to paint those by hand, but there's no point doing those until the ship's all being painted and that, and I can insert them in there. There's a couple of cranes to go on, and I believe some more anti-aircraft here, I believe. We've got the aircraft to build up. We've got to paint, obviously. Now, what I'm going to do with the painting, we should really talk about that more later date, I suppose, but while we're here, I'm going to paint a blue, but I'm going to do undercoat grey, and then maybe the hairspray technique, then put blue on her, and especially on the lower down areas, because the black and white photographs you have in her last, month or weeks of service before she went below the waves is she was quite patchy. The blue was quite patchy on her, and that's what I want to try and achieve. It was less so further up, obviously, where the sea wasn't getting so bad and the weather wasn't getting to her as much. But yeah, so we've got to put railings. That was the word I was after. Railings around the side. See, problems. It comes and goes. So I've got some railings at the end here, as you've seen before. Where we are there. There's a couple more of those we've got to go on around the gun pits and further up. So yeah, we've got a bit of work to go on her yet before the painting gets there, but not far off. I'm just pleased that she's got to the funnel stage and that. I mean, that's the classic for her type. Some of the doors, I only leave the occasional ones open. I'm not sure in wartime conditions if they ever left them open at all, to be honest with you. But I just wanted a bit of difference because I can paint the door frame inside black, again, it was just to add a bit of difference, and I only do that occasionally. But yeah, there's a bit of filling you have to do on the funnel here because it's a separate piece that sits on, and further up I have tried to fill it as best I can. Ideally, it would have been better to have done that off the ship, and I didn't really think about it till I'd stuck the funnel on, and that then became a bit of a nightmare to fill and sand. But again, it is what it is. Hopefully I'll learn as I go. So yeah, I mean, the blue foam, she's just stuck on a piece of, as I say, the stuff that they put, a big strip of the stuff that you can put posters on and things like that. This will be roughly the size of the ocean that she's going to sit in. Not much bigger than that, because I don't have the room to have these giant, you know, seascapes. I just want to put it in context, really. I prefer to see him, just my own viewpoint, I prefer to see him in the water than on the brass pegs. You know, it's just how I like to see him. Yeah, there you go. Let's see if we can get back a bit. There she is. 1 in 700 USS Lexington. As I say, I've got the ward. The ward will have an unboxing when she gets here. Can't be too far away now, probably a week or so. She's going to be tiny in comparison to the Lexington. Obviously, this is a battle cruiser hull, but yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. I'm going to try and source some crew. I keep looking at crew figures. I can get the little Edward flat ones, photo etch ones. I might use those. That famous diorama of the Lexington that guy made with when they were having to abandon ship. He actually, I remember reading it up on Model Ship Gallery or whatever it is, Model Ship World, I don't know. He actually used blobs of super glue or something to fill them out and then repaint them. Could go down that method. I have even thought of trying to make my own out of green stuff and then replicate them out of Oishimuru stuff, out of blue stuff. We'll see. But she will have crew on. She will have some aircraft on. I'll say that's why the lifts are like they are, because I'll do the wings up or whatever of them coming up the lifts. And then, you know, dot crew around. I just think it makes it look like you know, a ship of war or whatever. The only thing, you know, purists, well, there's a lot of things purists would knock it for, but I do have, often most of the guns tended to be in the same direction because they'd be controlled by fire directors, like these guys up at the top here. These two in the baskets, they are actually gun director for the anti-aircraft guns, I believe. And there's others spread around or they could be for the 5-inch guns as their higher point up. But normally the guns tended to be trained in the same direction, so that when they're called upon, the main gunnery officer can give them their, you know, degrees, whatever, and fire, whatever. But you know what I mean. They can literally all aim as one rather than independently. But I'm getting out of it saying, like this guy here, multiple 1.1 inch, they're working on working on her and whatever. But say purists might say that all the guns should be in the same direction. You know, waiting for, you know, even if they're not manned at the time, you know, they're waiting for orders. But as far as I'm concerned, crews are doing maintenance on them, so that's how I'm selling it to you. Right, guys, there will be another antenna, you know, wireless antenna mast and that goes on top of this as well. And I'm not sure if another one goes here. I think it does. But yeah, oh no, it's right. I think that might be radar on that one. But yeah, there's a few things to go. But I think you know, I'm getting really excited with the project now because she's, again, there's lots of things that aren't right with her, as in my model making skills, but I just think for a first attempt, I'm quite happy with how she's progressing. And as I say, we've got, I don't know I've got the Bismarck to build, and as you know, that's got full photo etch. I might knock the Bismarck back and do the Ward next, only just to keep trying to get a bit of practice in, because that, as we all know, the Bismarck I've got is absolutely, it makes this Edward set look like a starter set. I mean, it's got everything. But yeah, might do the Ward next, because I say my other two, my more modern ones, they haven't got any. I haven't got any aftermarket for them yet, so there's no point doing those yet. And I had to stop myself pulling the trigger on the Flyhawk. Have brought the Emden out, the famous Swan of the East, the famous light cruiser raider from the Great War, and I've got several books on the Emden, and I will be buying the Emden. And they do a deluxe version of that in 1 in 700 with all the brass and stuff. So I had to talk myself out of it. I've got to wait for a couple of soldier sales yet before I can look at that, but she will be on the shopping list. I've always had an interest in the Emdens, so we'll be going back rather than forward. We're going back to the Great War for that one, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So yeah, thank you for stopping by. I know I'm waffling along, it's what Gav does. I've just thought of something as well. I've got to put a load of stairwells down into the boat decks as well. That's what all these little plastic doobies are here for. You sit there's one over here you can't really see now, but you sit them on top and then put the stairwells down. So yeah, look after yourselves. Thank you very much for stopping by. As I say, I know model ships, they're about as popular as my my display figure painting, but I just love them. I've always loved my ships, and it's probably really is my favourite of all the modelling genres out there. And yeah, I just love them. As I say, I don't always go with it. If you'd have asked me was Lexington ever on my main shopping list for a 1 in 700 ship? Probably not. I just saw I tend to go, times aren't always easy, so I just go for what I find is a decent price, and then I go looking at the shopping, then I go shopping for PE. If I find a PE set that I can afford, I'll then go and pull the trigger on the ship and the PE, and that's what I did with Lexington. But I'm really glad I did. As I say, I don't think, apart from a couple of major, not major, but as I said to you, the flared bows at the front here, underneath, Trumpeter needed to explain that better and do that better. I think that's a major problem with the kit. If you're like me and if not, I'm not new to modelling, but either if you're new or if you've got head problems like me, which I know not everybody has, but you'll just follow the instructions and it'll take you down the wrong path, in my opinion. But that's probably the only major problem. Yeah, these stanchions, they all fell apart. It happens. I'm not going to cry about that. But the fit, apart from them two stanchions breaking, and I've got a couple more to go on the back here. That's why there's a couple of holes you haven't seen down there. There's two stanchions that go up to these fighting platforms up here. And apart from those, which, I didn't have a smaller, well, I had two smaller size and a very slightly too big a size, but if you've got some stuff like that, you can get around that. But apart from that, the fit's been really good. I know people go on about the shape. A trumpeter don't always get their ship shapes right in the larger scales, and I would imagine that goes down to the smaller scale. But to me, it's Lexington, she looks like Lexington to me. I'm not sure the crew would ever say, guys that served on her would ever say Gav's made a good rendition of the Lexington. But to me, she's a Lexington, and that's good enough for me. Right, I'm going back to waffling again, aren't I? Look after yourselves. Coming up, we've got a Warlord Epic 13mm, couple of stands of French Old Guard Grenadiers. I'm just painting those to sell. They're going along slowly because obviously everything else I've got, but I've got a couple of stands of them to do. The flat Hussar figure, I've actually painted most of the horse now, bar the mane and tail and the tack, so the leather work that goes around the horse. I'll do that, and then I'll do an update on that one. There'll be nothing else done on the figure yet, but we'll give an update on that. So that'll happen towards the end of next week. The Lancer, he's the bloke himself, or the rider, let's put it that way. The rider's all built. I just had to do a tiny bit of filling, not much actually, and I was filling the portmanteau, which did need a bit of work done to it, and the musket, and the few little bits. I'm working after about a 5-day, 6-day break on him. He's back on the production line tonight and tomorrow night, so we'll get as far as we can go. I might have a problem with him only in the sense of I'm probably obviously going to have to fit the reins on after I paint the horse and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, I've got to look at the instructions and then try and work it out in my head how I'm going to do that. Because I'd prefer, as I said to you, to paint the horse and paint everything separately. So there might be a case I might struggle with some of the horse tack on him, but we'll cross that bridge in a bit. So yeah, there'll be an update on him next week as well. I kept promising that 28mm tutorial on the horse, and that should come up next week. I've just been doing the commission work, and to be fair, it was been about 3 or 4 nights on the Lexington and a couple of nights on the flat figure. So when I've had my own time to myself, so we're getting there. As I say, there'll be an unboxing probably next week when it gets to me of the aircraft, 1 in 72 aircraft I've got. It's an oldie, but I like the particular aircraft, so I think that should be decent. If the Ward gets to me next week, we'll do an unboxing of her as well. That's about it really. Right, once again, look after yourselves. We'll catch each other very soon on another video. As always, thank you very much for your kind words of support. It's really appreciated. You know, I don't go shouting out, you know, like, subscribe and all that. I'm not knocking my marrows that do that. I'm just saying it's something I don't do. But it doesn't mean I don't appreciate every one of you that takes the time out of your day to either watch, press the like button, or subscribe, all that stuff that people say. So that's just me. But it doesn't mean I don't appreciate you. So thank you very much. Look after yourselves. We'll catch each other soon, as always, on another video.